The profession of teaching can be a challenging one. Throughout the centuries, what has been emphasized as important in the classroom has varied depending on changing trends. The question of what our students need and how we prepare teachers to adequately teach them has been widely debated. As an art educator, MAT student, and general observer of the public school system, I would argue that teachers coming into the field, as well as teachers currently teaching, would benefit from a shift in how we look at what needs to be taught, how it is taught, and who we are teaching. Lodge in 2013 goes into great length about 21st century skills in correlation with arts curriculum and postulates that only focusing on skills that can be used in the workplace instead of focusing on art-centered learning as a whole has the potential to hinder true implementation of the arts education standards and may reduce the value of arts learning to being only economically relevant. While I do agree that focusing on arts education as a complete experiential form of education is crucial to cultivating young artists and learners, I also feel that Lodgen has slightly narrow-minded in art education in general. I feel more factors need to be addressed than just skill-based learning versus experiential learning. Paris 2017 notes that in 2014, it was the first year that students of color were the majority in the U.S. public schools, versus in 1970, where 80% of the students were white. This demographic shift is important to note because the skills, knowledge, and ways of being presented in classrooms must also shift. In order to assess if teachers are making important changes to serve a wider demographic, it's important to examine teacher training programs. According to Valentine 2006, many pre-service teachers have entered teacher education programs with very limited, if any, firsthand experience with diversity. Are teacher education programs effectively preparing teachers to meet the needs of a diverse range of students? Valentine 2006 continues to address the fact that researchers have investigated the following: pre-service teachers' attitudes and dispositions towards diversity, the effects of required multicultural courses, and the nature and diversity of field experiencing and student-teacher placements. The attitudes and dispositions teachers in training have about diversity is a factor in how they handle training involving diversity during university. Valentine 2006 notes that dispositions seem to be an important predictor of pre-service teachers developing greater multicultural awareness and sensitivity during their programs, and that these might be considered when making program admission decisions, although that can be tricky. The effect of required multicultural courses is another factor to be considered. How is diversity addressed? With a few courses or an incorporated infused course, what are the objectives for diversity classes? Are teachers being given the chance to model culturally sustaining practices in their coursework? The nature of diversity of field experiences and student-teacher placements is the last area of interest in teacher training programs. Are teachers getting adequate exposure to diverse populations? Are they being placed with trained professional teachers that model culturally sustaining pedagogy and arts integration practices regularly? While the task of preparing pre-service teachers feels daunting, there are promising programs and research. Kingsley 2019 writes about a cohort of pre-service teachers who co-created arts integration units with emergent bilingual students, engaging them in the creation of plays based on culturally relevant children's literature. Kingsley 2019 shares the experiences of 13 pre-service teachers who used art-based learning pedagogy through their 3-semester student teaching courses and fieldwork while drawing from their students' funds of knowledge to develop culturally sustaining pedagogies. Paris and Alim 2017. The pre-service teachers were in a cohort named the Teacher Education Collaborative in Language Diversity and Arts Integration, TECLA. This model was developed in 2014 by a group of 8 university faculty. The goal was to address the educational needs of diverse learners, specifically emergent bilingual youth, and those living in economically vulnerable communities. The TECLA model is exciting because its goal is to improve pre-service and in-service teacher quality by preparing teachers for careers in culturally diverse and economically vulnerable communities by exploring art-based teaching, learning, and assessment to support diverse ways of knowing and communicating. One teacher in the study articulated that the TECLA program changed their thinking on teaching through the arts. Prior to her participation, she assumed art integration meant doing art projects on top of central learning, but during the program, she learned to teach with art as the primary vehicle of learning. So cool. Her example, she transformed the Australian Aboriginal story entitled Sun Mother Wakes the World into a play with her third grade students. Together as a class, they broke down the plot, they created character sketches and a script. They made rain sticks for props and animal masks for costumes based on research they conducted on the Australian outback. The students engaged the text by practicing the scripts and actions. They rehearsed, revised, and performed the text. The students used group problem-solving strategies to decide how to embody and enact the characters in the play. So awesome. Several more examples follow in the study of pre-service teachers mindfully creating units that are both culturally sustaining as well as laying the foundation of experiential art education. One teacher in his class converted a historical account of Cinco de Mayo into a play, while another class made a life-size collage of the book Pancho Rabbit and the Coyote, A Migrant's Tale, and using puppetry to convey the story. These examples show that there is a space in education where students, cultures, and creative inclinations can combine and result in learning that is engaging, inspiring, and fun. By actively seeking and learning ways to integrate arts and culture into the classroom, I believe teachers and pre-teachers alike can create more effective learning spaces for all students. Here are my references. Thank you for listening.